about like, so in the kind of work that you're doing day to day, where are you seeing the most like innovation? Are you able to talk about some of the innovative products that you've worked on without obviously harming the IP or like
Okay. Wearables
protecting
is
your clients?
something, absolutely. So wearables is something that's getting popular. So asset tracking using small beacon gadgets is something very popular in the industry because RFID needs to have a scanner at every place. So we have designed a solution that you could hook it up to 1,000, 10,000 assets, let them move around in real time, let it have a temperature sensor, and we would dynamically keep collecting data. So it becomes like asset tracking system right from logistics management inside a factory. So this is at a focused level where GPS fails. So if I
Yes.
have to find whether I am in room A or room B, that's where a GPS device won't work.
Yeah.
So we use the beacon network to identify where the person is, and this can be used in
Inside the
medical.
building.
Absolutely, so floor one, floor two, room one, wherever he is. So plant manager needs an emergency, you find him. You want to track expensive assets, you want to track expensive paintings, you can have it. You need to track where a doctor is. So let's say there's a big hospital, you have some critical emergency, you can
Yeah.
simply see on their platform where the where the doctor is, or you can have children monitored in the school. So there are certain places where the students must not enter. There are certain rooms where your staff and students shouldn't be there for a long time, or whatnot. I mean, the
So
number of use cases you can look is really big.
that's good for like people like me because I'm visually impaired and I use apps to help me navigate my way if I'm going from point A to point B. Just like a car would, it would just tell me to turn left or turn right or change the destination or whatever. But obviously, that doesn't work inside buildings. So something like this would help people with
Absolutely.
disabilities inside, like find their
The
way
building.
around inside a building.
Absolutely. So you call it as in-house GPS system.
Yeah.
So
So is
you
that
can
something
use
you're
it.
working on?
Yes, so we are working on this. Then for a customer, we have designed a camera-based vending machine. So you do not need to, have the coil rotate. But what you could simply do is it's a simple refrigerator. You open, pick up whatever you want. Cameras track what you're taking, and we bill it for you. It's a research activity that we did. It's something that's still in a
Okay.
very research oriented age or
That's
stage of the
interesting.
product.
That's a little bit like the Amazon self-checkout stores that
Yes,
they made.
it's a variant of it, but we are
Yeah.
having it in a very controlled segment. So
Yeah.
we are not targeting a grocery store, but targeting a small refrigerator or a visi cooler that you call.
Yeah.
So
'Cause-
now, learnings from these research activities can be pushed into asset tracking for industries using camera. Finding out using camera vision for analysis of various medical diseases. Uh, Safety requirements. In case of hazards, you can use cameras to see how many people are inside. You can use thermal cameras to see track where humans are, and whatnot. I mean, use case is big.
yeah. Sounds good. My previous guest I was talking to, Chris, he is like um, he has a website to help archaeologists and treasure hunters. Um, and so his followers, his community is deeply involved in using metal detectors and other things. So I'm sure at some stage I might come to you for some advice in getting like a next level kind of a metal detector created. That I think
This
that
is
might,
this is interesting.
yeah. So also tell me a bit about. So you mentioned medical devices. Do you normally work with medical devices, or what things do you work with, and what things do you kind of stay away from?
So we have not worked on medical and defense. Those are
Uh-huh.
two areas where we have not ventured into. Uh,
Is
but
that a coincidence or
our
is that by
focus.
choice?
It is by choice. It is largely by choice.
Hmm.
So that's an area where I don't have sufficient expertise nor the confidence to get into.
Okay.
But if you look at something like diagnosis, I mean,
Yeah.
which can give you a reference. So just before our call, I was checking out an article that used images from people body tissues to predict cancerous cells 5 years in advance. So it's a research by MIT.
Yeah.
So something like that can make sense in my kind of environment where I would prefer working on it. Or maybe dental scans, retina scans, and these kind of activities. Uh, Direct medical devices, blood pressure monitoring. So even during the
Yeah.
COVID era, a lot of companies pivoted into monitoring the SpO2 sensors, or they made these quick ventilators that were portable. So that's something that I refrain myself from, because one flaw can have a large impact on the person's life. So
Yes. True. And so, just so that my listeners understand, you are involved entirely in the research and development phase. You're not, so you're not involved in manufacturing. So from there, once a product is the prototype is developed, then the client would either have their own internal manufacturing processes, or they would then take it to a company in China or wherever it would be.
yes, that's right. Because I have, somewhere understood that designing or design thinking or research activities, they have a very polar mentality when it comes to manufacturing. When it comes to manufacturing, you have a fixed timeline. You need these number of products per day. This machine should not do machining for more than 5 minutes on a particular part or something like that. We are very much time constrained. But if you
Yes.
look at designing activities, sometimes you would have no results for 3 days,
Yeah.
and the fourth day suddenly a lot of things start working. So it's very hard to measure productivity, and it's very intangible. So if you see,
Yes.
most companies look at design productivity from how many hours the person is in front of the laptop, which is not really the way it should be. I may work 3 hours in front, but if I'm giving my an output, so the mentality is different. It's very hard for me to have my feet on both stones. So
Yeah.
choices. I love innovation. I love focusing on innovative ideas, and I've kept myself there.
And do you work mostly with like large brands, or do you also work with startups or small companies trying to get their items out into Amazon or Walmart or wherever it may be?
We are open to all. So nothing specific. We have had customers who were just starting out. There were two founders reaching out to us. So as long as you have your terms and conditions, your payments, and our commitments on the design aspect, everything clearly present, I don't worry much about the size of the customer. So
Yeah.
every customer was, maybe it started in a garage. That's what some people say. Keep themselves motivated.
Yes. But I'm just wondering how, because there's a lot that will need to go into developing a brand new product or a brand new method of working. So, first of all, how do you normally price something like that? How do you know what work will need to go into it? Does the client have a good idea when they start, um, from start to end, what they're getting into, or is it like a um, something that kind of becomes clearer as the process goes on?
Ah, so here typically there are two models. If it's a pure research activity, which it's a long tunnel,
Hmm.
then we usually have a monthly fee. So I
Hmm.
have 10 engineers working for you. This is what it costs, and we have monthly targets. We need to discuss with the customer what we have researched about, what we have done, and it's a long process. If it's a fixed product, so let's say somebody comes to me with a very crystal clear idea, they tell me, okay, they have every other aspect figured out. They have the UI figured out, they have a number of input outputs or whatever else. Then we usually tell them, okay, there would be four people working on this for 6 months, and you pay me in milestones. So I'll give you a prototype. I need XYZ amount of money to come in, and then I move to the next milestone. So it's a typical software like approach,
Yeah.
and research are usually long running. I mean, you may fail, you may succeed, you really never know.
Yes.
It's like you're a crackpot who may hit the jackpot.
Yeah. Very good. And do you only work with electronic devices, or do you also help develop like um, non-electronic products, like I don't know, a cup holder or a car cover or something like that?
No, we focus only on electronics because that is my strong forte.
Hmm.
But I do have a designer who is there into designing products. So I mean, if a customer comes to me with these kind of requirements and I have a good relation with him, so let's say an old customer comes back, or there's a need for a product. So let's say I'm building
Yes.
an electronics gadget for which it requires some kind of a physical asset. Then I do have a resource who will sit on it and help. That's not something I actively advertise about.
Yeah.